Okay, I'd like to call these budget hearings for the 2021 city budget to order. The time is 4:34 p.m. And the first department we're going to review tonight, the engineer. In your books, that's tab 4, page 25. Yeah, you just pass it around the.
Was it signing?
Everybody ready?
Yeah.
Everybody there? Everybody there? Tab 4, page 25. Yeah, I always report everybody that's in attendance. Okay, we'll start with the Finance Committee itself, if they have any questions in regards to the engineered budget.
I had one question in regards to 413.017, the employees' benefits, vacation bonus, and holiday incentives. So are we to determine that this is already what's going to be anticipated for 2021 from what the employee is going to receive?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Everyone's entitled to the holiday incentive after.
Okay.
So that would be 1% of this year's salary.
And then if I can go back to 411.013 in regards to the salaries and wages and regular salaries and wages of the $67,785. For this annual salary, this is including that 27 pay period for the year of 2021.
That is correct.
Is there a reason why this would be included into the actual salary, which is going to show, is going to appear in the salaries as if they received a pay raise?
Well, this is the budget, so we have to budget for the 27th pay.
That would not be put into a different allocation or budget line item for that amount. So it's going to reflect then that this individual's salary has increased.
On the W-2, technically, yes.
So it's a pay raise.
It's up there, you get the same bi-weekly pay.
Yeah, the same bi-weekly pay.
No,
But because of the way the calendar falls next year, we have a payday on January 1st and a payday on December 31st.
the pay, the bi-weekly pay is not changing.
Yeah, the biweekly pay will remain the same. It's just the anomaly with the calendar.
But the biweekly pay is a 27 pay period.
That's why we never budget for.
That's why we have to budget for that, for 27.
Right, but is there a way where that amount for those 2 weeks is not placed somewhere else other than in the actual salary? Because it's showing that this individual is getting, that their salary is increasing. And then is that going to, because this 2021 is going to increase their annual salary, then in the year 2022, are you going to go back down to their regular base pay?
Then they'll receive their biweekly pay 26 times, yes.
Okay.
So this number will appear to be less in the 2022 budget than it did in the 2021 budget. But the biweekly pay is going to remain the same.
There's no account number to put that one extra paycheck in, because it only occurs every
it's just part of the salary.
Can I add into that? So essentially, this is a pay increase.
Let me,
How does it go from 64 to 67 without it increasing?
It's by anybody's salary, any salaried employee, there's no raises, they're going to get the same biweekly pay January 1st as they received in December. It just happens to be in that entire year because we have to budget for the entire year. There's just more, we have to just budget for the amount of money because we're on a cash basis on what we're paying out.
Okay, but what you're paying out has gone up.
Excuse me?
What you're paying out has increased.
What we're paying out is increased with that,
So that's a pay raise.
but the employee is not going to receive any more.
Okay.
Normal, every 2 weeks you get the same amount.
Okay, let me make this simple for people who don't understand. If I'm receiving $100, and if that's spread out over 9 weeks or 10 weeks, if it's 9 weeks, I would get $110. So if you add an additional week, that will put me over the $100. I mean, it would be $10 and 10 cents a week. And if it went up to include an additional pay period, that would make it $110. So that is an increase. So it should have been divided by the 27.
27 paid.
No, I'm not saying that. The 27th week should have been averaged by the salary, not an additional pay. This is an unadvertised pay increase. If you divided whatever the salary is by 27 weeks, yeah, their weekly income or the biweekly pay would have been slightly reduced, but their annual pay would remain the same. This is a pay increase.
The salary order is the biweekly salary order also.
But this is a pay increase. Let's stop saying what it isn't. It is a pay increase.
Okay.
Jim,
move somebody's salary back when they have biweekly pay. We can't just move somebody's salary into 2022 because we want this to look as if there's an additional check. It's like working a month that has 3 pay Fridays in it. So you're going to have more money in that month than you would in one that has 2. So you cannot take somebody's salary and not pay them. I don't even know.
Is their salary? Are the salaries based on a bi-weekly rate or an annual rate?
Bi-weekly.
So your salary is whatever it is every 2 weeks. That's what your salary is, and it's not the accumulation of the years. The annual salary is not the base salary.
Correct. Bi-weekly.
So if your salary is $80,000, it's based on a 2-week paycheck.
That is correct.
Attorney Myers, is that standard how it's always done that way? Oh, your mic's not on, Jim. Sorry.
All right. So I think if you look at last year's salary ordinance, some of the salaries were actually annualized salary, and they were divided by 26, so you came up with a number.
Okay.
That they came up with, as I understand it, this year, per bi-weekly check.
So
This year, they did not put an annual amount in. They put in the proposed ordinances. Obviously, you guys get to vote on them. They put in just bi-weekly costs. As I understand it, they took last year's annual salary, divided it by 26, came up with a bi-weekly number, which they then put into the ordinances. This year, there will be 27 pays of that bi-weekly amount. Now, was it 6 years from now? There'll be 25. And, what happens then is another question.
So will their bi-weekly pay increase if there was 25 weeks, or will it still be the same?
It will still be the same.
If you keep it the same. I mean, it's every year the council votes on what the salaries are going to be.
Okay, I get the 27-week theory, but essentially this is a pay increase.
There's one other reason that it's done. The budget's done uniformly throughout the entire government. And you have 5-year contracts that she might have with police and fire, if that were shown as a raise this year, it would carry through to next year. That's why, in positions like the engineer, you can change it from year to year if you go from 26 pay periods one year to 27, or 27 down to 26. But when you sign a 2-year contract for wages, like with police or fire, if the contract's signed this year and there's a higher salary in because there's 20, if you increase the rate because of 27 pay periods, they're going to get that same thing next year. So it will definitely be a raise next year.
Okay.
That's why that's done uniformly throughout the government.
Yeah, that makes sense with contractual services or employees that are under contract, but for
Yeah.
regular appointed staff, this is a pay increase that, I mean, it isn't presented that way. You guys are saying the 27 weeks, but it's a pay increase. Can we just admit that this is a pay increase? Or you're just not going to admit that?
Annually, it's a pay increase. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Now we're clear on it. Okay, now we're clear on it. That's
No, it's not a pay increase.
okay. Just wanted the clarity. Thank you.
Councilman Preselinski.
You know, in this discussion about the pay periods and how much somebody should get paid, well, it has occurred in the past, but I think that some positions are salary, what, you know, they're supposed to get paid for that period. And it doesn't matter to me if it's 27, 26, then it should be divided equally. So not all these positions should be accounted as what is being said here on this 27-week pay period. Because just like the council people, we're paid so much a year, and that should be divided out over the 27 pay periods. Just like anybody else that has a set amount for that year. And I believe that includes a lot of the administrative staff. So that's the way I see it. That is comes with the territory, and that is correct that we've done that in the past. That people said, well, how come their pay is not this amount? It's 27 pay periods or 26 pay periods. But the main thing I think is that some people are salary, all right, and that's what we got to cut through here, is that some people are salary and they have a set amount for that year. Thank you.
And if I could, and I just did a tally based off of what some of the salary employees, department heads, with that 27 pay period, totaled out to approximately, one moment, $126,031.83. And again, that doesn't include the hourly pay.
Yeah, the total increase for an entire 27th payroll is in the neighborhood of $700,000.
Any other questions regarding the engineer budget? Because I have none. Hearing no more questions from the Finance Committee, I'll open up to other council members.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just getting back to the 56 or the 26 versus the 27 week pay. And so this has been a $700,000 increase to the city for payroll with this one extra bi-weekly paycheck. And I don't know, is there any other way that this money can be paid out besides adding another 2 weeks pay to every employee's paycheck and giving them a raise? I mean,
Yeah, the only way
by
around
law,
it,
does that mean that if it's 27 pay periods,
Cut their pay.
and we have to pay them every 2 weeks. Is that law?
Yes.
So-
The only way around it would be if the city changed its entire pay schedule process
Yeah.
and you got paid bi-monthly instead of bi-weekly. That would be the only way to get around the anomalies with the calendar, doing, 27 pays every 10 or 11 years and 26 pays all the other years. The only other way around that would be to change the entire policy and process of the city and make it a bi-monthly payroll.
Oh,
You can't do that for, you
And we can't
can't
do that.
for hourly employees, you can only do that for salary. You get it only for salary.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's all I'm talking about is salary employees right now.
It'd be easier to,
All right, any other questions regarding the engineer's budget? If not, I need a motion to approve the engineer's budget
We're gonna talk.
from the finance committee.
Good.
I'll make motion to approve. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Okay.
So the engineer budget is complete. Next up, personnel. Tab 4, page 16. And just for note, you will see that increased amount because of that extra week of pay, so we don't go over the same question through every budget. It will show that 27th pay period in each of the salary lines. So it's been addressed, so we don't have to go over that through every single budget that we look at. Okay, I'll go to the finance committee with the personnel budget. Does anybody have any questions or concerns in regards to the personnel budget?
I just had one question in line item 439.091, other services and charges education. What type of training is it, or how frequently is that being done?
This year, it wasn't done very much at all due to COVID. That line item encompasses central services, forester, city hall, human rights. Am I missing anybody? Probably about 7 departments, Tracy, that one covers. Unfortunately, it doesn't reflect properly because of COVID. Nobody could go to training or education this year.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes.
On the training portion of the budget, is there any training ever held for the police and the inspection department on enforcing the city codes? Has that ever taken place?
I believe inspection has had that. I don't know anything about police.
Has there ever been a book put together
What
about?
line item are we discussing in the budget here?
Okay, well, it was about education, excuse me.
Okay,
All right, and that's all I wanted to know.
perfect.
I'll discuss that on a different time with the personnel director. Thank you.
Councilman, most definitely, they're welcome to use the money in the education fund if they need it, and if the training is needed. Absolutely, that's what it's for.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the finance committee regarding the personnel budget? I reviewed and gave it the check mark here, so I had no questions in regards to this budget. Hearing no other questions from the finance committee, I'll open it up to other council members. Any other council members have questions?
Yeah, Mr. President, one question dealing with the line item 439-094. That's the last one on the EAP services and other charges. Anyway, we adopted 18,000 for this year. We've spent 9,000 so far, and we're into almost done with September. So what are we looking at for the rest of the year? How much do you think you might spend the rest of the year?
Probably less than what I was budgeted, and that's why we switched EAP providers.
Okay, you got any idea, Andrea? Possibly
Yvonne,
how much?
or Mary Lynn, do you know what the EAP is a month?
No, not off the top of my head.
But I agree, I do see a savings that has happened from last year to this year. Absolutely.
Okay, and let me ask you, because you run the office, I don't, but I just look for things like this. How much of a savings do you think the city could incur in that line item? 2,000?
2,000, I would say.
2,000? Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Thank you for
But I would
your-
like, you're welcome, but I'd like the controller's office to verify. But yep, I believe we are on track for saving some money this year.
Because we reduced it almost $2,000.
Good.
So that's what I was getting ready to say. We reduced that by 2,000, just about 2,000 here, 1,700 and some change. And I was wondering, were you saying an additional 2,000, or is that the 2,000 you're talking about, the cut?
No, I believe that's the 2,000 Yvonne's taking off for 2021. Is that correct?
Okay, perfect. Any other questions from any of the other councilmen in attendance?
Okay, so we can reduce that then by 2,000. Oh, I see. Oh, I see what you're doing there. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And they also reduced education by 488.
Any other questions by any other council members? Yes, go ahead.
I do. The reductions in these line items, what was that based on, or what percentage?
That would be the controller that took the line item
Mrs.
reduction.
Hoffmaster, could you answer that?
Most of them were 10%.
10%? Thank you.
Are you good, Councilwoman Tillman, I'm sorry? Are you good? Do you have any more questions? You good? Okay, perfect. Hearing no other questions from the council. Now we need a motion to approve the personnel budget.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Hey, 3-0, the personnel department budget recommendation passes.
Thank you, council members.
Next up, City Hall, tab 4, page 19.
The mayor and I can address any questions.
Okay.
I'm sorry, the mayor and I can address any questions on the city hall budget.
Okay, we'll start with the Finance Committee members. You have any questions? I have a couple on this one, so I'm just asking if you guys have questions first.
Yes, line item 423.011, repairs and maintenance supplies, building and materials. Anticipation of the $36,100, but from last year budget, well, this year budget, only $250, and only $752.99 been spent. Could you explain or elaborate further as to some of the items, or what is this amount is used for, or will be used for?
No, I know, but we only spent $700.
It's the same amount as utilities electric.
If I'm getting there. It's like, this is like extremely small.
I'm trying to see it and see it, but it's on there, 250.
Yep, honestly, I don't know what that is. This must have been something we all overlooked. But the original request was for $4,000. Oh, you know what? Yeah, we probably meant to reduce that to 3,600. And yeah. So that number should actually be 3,600. So if you wanted to decrease that back to 3,600, that's what it was supposed to be.
Okay, so after discussion, the line item 423.011, repair and maintenance supplies, building materials. The proposed amount was 36,000 in the book here, 100 brought down to 3,600. And I'll record that on the sheet here for adjustment.
Yeah, I don't know how we missed it when we were looking at the bottom line.
Does that require a motion to vote?
Yeah.
Well, this is just a committee hearing. It would require, unless you guys submit an amendment, because it's a as I understand it, it's a clerical error. It's not a, you intended 3,600.
Right.
Yeah. So the way that I've done them in the past is, if we make a cut like this, when I go to approve the budget, I said you have a motion to approve City Hall budget, and I'll mention that change.
Put it that way.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Councilman Paul Prespolinski.
Thank you, Councilman Dabney. On that amount, that still seems pretty high because you're looking at 2020 and it was like $250, and so you're increasing it quite a bit on that 3,600 with that typo. So do you have a problem with reducing that even more on repair and maintenance? Because I mean, it's not under parts, and everything looks pretty consistent with this year, but that's still, how much of a percentage, with reducing that on that typo. You think that you guys could live with 1,500, because that's increasing it still, about 400%? Oh, actually,
Well, you can reduce it if you'd like to, but we have two heating air conditioning units in City Hall that are struggling. One in the downstairs EOC center and one in the park department office. So there's a good chance they're going to have to be replaced this year. But if you want to reduce that, then that's
they're
your
going to
call.
have to be replaced this year?
Yes, yeah, they were struggling in 2020.
So we'll reduce it, or we'll replace them in next year.
So, with that being said, were those units taken into account with that energy audit with the City Hall?
I don't know. A lot of that energy, a lot of that energy audit was lighting. I don't think it affected the heating.
Mr. Chairman, if I could answer that, because I headed up that.
Please.
The heating and air conditioning units were taken into consideration on that audit. So
Microphone.
they took it.
Microphone down.
Oh, I'm sorry, take my fingers off of it. Anyway, the heating and air conditioning units in all the different buildings that the city owned were all taken into consideration during that audit. What's going on now with them, I don't know. So, thank you.
Well, the reason I brought that up, I don't know, did they make recommendations on that audit on having equipment replaced? I wasn't really involved with that.
Well, just to answer the question, I don't remember seeing any recommendation to replace any air conditioning or heating units in City Hall. And it could have been, that audit, that audit in City Hall probably took place 2 years ago. So between then and now, something mechanically could happen to those units and they need to be repaired or changed out. I don't know.
Oh, well, with that being said, then maybe we need to find out before we do anything with this money, to find out if it should be left in place to do any maintenance on those air units. But if we want to, I don't have a problem with eliminating or reducing it, but we can always, put money back in there on getting it taken care of, because $3,600 is not going to repair those units. If you're going to do something, you might as well replace the whole unit and get it done once and done.
So if we don't make that budget adjustment tonight, we still have the chance to make those on second reading after we find out
Right.
exactly what's going on. So,
Right, I agree with that.
are you in agreement, Councilwoman Tillman, to keep it as is until we find out more of an accurate assessment of what it's going to cost for those units? Yes, and then we can make that change at the second hearing.
That's fine,
Okay.
yes.
I'm gonna mark that, and we make sure we get some information on that. So we'll keep it right now with the 36,100 in there, and then once we get an accurate assessment, we can make that adjustment at second reading.
You said you're going to keep it right now at 3,600?
Yeah, 36,100. We're just gonna keep it as is until we get an accurate assessment, and then we will move to make the decrease on second hearing. Okay?
Okay.
Yes.
If it isn't that though, is it gonna hurt if we just go ahead and put it at the 3,600 for now? And then at the second and go from there? And if we have to put it back, then we'll increase it back. I would rather do that.
Because
I would like to
the budget isn't passed.
Correct.
So we could
Yes,
actually, take it to 3,600 tonight.
okay.
And then after we find, let's say it comes back and said it's $8,000 that they would need, and then we can come back on the second hearing and put it at $8,000. We could do that.
I'd like to do that. I like to
Okay.
do that. I make a motion that we reduce the $36,000 from line item 423.011 to the recommended cut to $3,600.
3,600.
Second,
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
aye.
Those opposed? All right. Any other questions from the council?
One more question, and that's on line item 423031, repair and maintenance, supplies, small tools, and minor equipment. We got budgeted for this year was $2,000. So far, we spent $268. And next year, yeah, we cut it by 10%. But what are the plans for $1,800? What small tools or whatever? Why do we need so much? If we only spent $300 so far this year. I could see that we could probably cut a little bit out of there. I don't know what kind of small tools or whatever Tim needs, or minor
Yeah,
equipment.
I think this covers like the snow blowers and the leaf blowers and shovels, all those things like that.
Okay. I make a
Because
recommend-
last year we spent $1,975.
Yeah.
So that's,
Thank you, Yvonne. Yeah, that's good. I make a recommendation to the committee that they cut $500 from that line item. I mean, tools, rakes, shovels, things like that. I'm sure we haven't worn them out yet over the last 5 or 6 years, so.
Do we have a,
And if we need more equipment, then they can always come back to the council, we'll appropriate
for an additional appropriation for small tools?
$300 for shovels and lawnmower, whatever.
We need a motion from, one of the finance committee members?
I'd like to make that motion, Mr. Dabney, on reducing $500 out of line item 423031 down to 1305.
And Mr. President,
Do it.
yeah, I forgot one thing, and that's line item 436.
We're gonna,
Dr.
but he made a motion, we need a second?
I
We'll come
second
back.
that.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Second, okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, aye. Okay, yes.
As I was saying, line item 436010. Repairs and maintenance building, this, for 2021, it's budgeted for 16,000. It was budgeted this year for 13, and we've only spent 2,000. Why do we need $16,000 for next year?
If I could mention something, Don, like this year, we didn't use that building very much, and if we do go back to that building in a big time, we are gonna have to fix ventilation, because any kind of energy savings and recirculated air needs to be addressed. I see this being a potential that we're gonna need to do some work along those lines. So I can see where there will be repairs made due to COVID adjustments. So I'm just saying that might be a possibility, and that's a reason why sometimes we haven't spent that much money this year, because we haven't been in there.
Well, thank you for your comments. But I'm still asking why we budgeted 13,000 for 2020. We've only spent 2,000, but next year we're increasing it to 16,000. So what are the plans for next year to spend $16,000 on repairs and maintenance equipment? I'm looking for specifics. I'm not looking for maybe this, maybe that.
I think
Because
part
when
of
you
it.
put a budget together, it's got to be for specifics, not because we might think we might need to do this.
Right,
Otherwise, we could have all kinds of different categories.
I think
Go ahead,
a
Yvonne.
big part of it is the boiler system needs to have an overhaul. The boiler system is what runs the heating and air conditioning in the building.
Yeah.
I know we just had somebody out there, was that last week? Last week or the week before, because it stopped working, we had no air conditioning in the building and it was like 95 degrees outside. So we were, looking, when talking with the mayor's office about what needs to be done with the building, they asked if we could increase that line item to have the boiler looked at and any repairs done on it that would need to be done.
Okay.
Because the building is 40-plus years old. And it's just an old boiler. That's the original boiler system from when the building was built in 1979.
Okay. And with that being said, have we gotten 3 bids on it yet?
No,
I
not
think by law,
yet.
we have to get 3 bids before anything's done, correct?
Exactly, right.
Okay.
Well, one other thing I'd like to point out to Councilman Prisbalinski's attention is that we have had a local contractor look at adding some emergency exits into the building, because the building was built in 1979, which was not the day of the active shooter and what we have today. So we've assessed the building, and we feel that there's at least one more emergency exit needed to protect the employees in the event of an incident in the building. I don't want to go into details where, because this is on TV, but we've looked at that, and we decided now with the budget deficit, we looked at it in the first 3 months that I was in office, and we decided with the budget deficit, it was not the time to pursue something like that.
Okay. So those are the 2 items that'll be coming out of that $16,000, is the boiler repairs and a emergency exit.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for the explanation.
An additional question.
Yes, Councilwoman Jacobs.
I have an additional question about the utilities. Just wondering about why there's such a variety of even actual costs. So 18, it was 42,000, 46,000, and then went down to 20, this year. I mean, because we weren't using it, we weren't, running all the motors and using the lights. So that's just kind of interesting to me that.
Yeah, actually, these numbers are through June 30.
Through June.
Yeah, June 30 of 2020.
Okay.
So we spent $19,000 the first 6 months of this
So
year.
that's pretty much spot on.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
Any other questions from any other council members? All right. Going back, Finance Committee, questions all answered there. So I make a motion to approve the City Hall budget with the adjustments of line item 423011 from $36,100 down to $3,600, and the repair, maintenance, small tools 423031 from $1,805 down to $1,305. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Thank you. And next up, the attorney. Page 22. Tab 4, page 22.
Excuse me.
All right. Starting with the Finance Committee members, are there any questions? And these will be directed to Yvonne. You're handling this budget for council, for Amberley Page.
Okay. Ms. Hoffmaster, for line item 413016, employees benefit longevity, I just want to make sure that I have a clear understanding. As far as longevity, it's every 3 years, $450. So based off of this particular one for 2021, it's $3,600. So is that crediting, is it from December to November? And or is it at their anniversary date that they accumulate their longevity?
Well, the longevity, it's $450 for every 3 years of service.
Okay.
The increase in this line item is a new staff member in the attorney's office, is a city employee that transferred to that department who has a higher longevity than the employee that was there last year.
Okay.
So that's why there was an increase in that line item.
Okay. And that was with no break in service?
Right, she went from December 31st in one office to January 1st in the attorney's office.
Thank you.
Any other questions from any of the Finance Committee members? Hearing none, I'll open it up to other council members. Yes, Councilman Dispatcher.
Yes, so the attorney's office has an office manager?
That's the job title given to the employee that sits out front. It's just a title that was created about 20 years ago.
And does the pay represent an office manager position or someone sitting at the window?
Well, it represents a manager. This position does more than just wait on a window.
Okay.
They handle all of, some of the legal, they help Amber out with the legal, they assist the personnel director with the insurance, with, they handle all of the workers' comp, they handle all of the insurance reports with the city's insurance company. So it's more than just a minor clerical position.
Okay, so this position services both departments, personnel as well as attorney's office?
That is correct.
But it's just funded out of the attorney budget?
Correct.
Okay.
Is with those duties, based off of the job descriptions for that position, is that something that warrants to be full-time or part-time?
This position is full-time, it always has been.
But she's also assisting the other full-time personnel, correct?
Correct. This person serves as basically an assistant to both of those departments.
Any other questions from any of the other council members? Okay,
Is that total amount for all legal services in the city? Because they fall under the control of the city attorney?
you asked about the 280?
Are you talking about the legal line item? The 431? 010?
I'm looking at the grand total.
The 280,000?
Yeah.
The total of the budget?
Yes.
Well, it does not include the attorneys who work for different boards, such as park, sanitary,
Correct.
redevelopment. They have their individual attorneys, and they're paid out of the individual board budgets for those boards. So this is only the corporation counsel, and occasionally, because she has conflict, she farms out some work.
Well, okay, I just, is there, on this, how many, okay, I guess maybe I shouldn't ask this question. Okay. But how many active suits are there against the city right now?
I can't really answer that, and I believe that's not something that we would discuss openly in a public meeting.
No.
Okay. Yeah.
But the council could have an executive session with the attorney if they wanted to know that type of information.
At this amount of money, are we looking at spending any additional money next year for any projected costs on lawsuits? Additional funding that we'll be looking at?
Well, I would hope not,
No.
but I don't,
Well, we gotta-
I mean,
That's careful.
We will,
That's
Okay,
handled in-
I'm just looking at into the future, and I know we got 5 or 6 or maybe 7 pending suits.
we're
right
going
now.
back to the actual budget.
Okay, well, it's in there. I think we should account for it somehow, some way, or be ready for that amount of money, that we should know that going into
That's
next year.
included in this. She handles those in her daily duties.
A lot of those suits, Paul, are handled by the insurance company and covered by the insurance company, other than a deductible, which I don't know what that is. So could somebody sit down and spend a couple hours coming up with some pretty precise numbers? Possibly, but until.
Okay, I guess, I just would like to know, and I guess that everybody should know, or have some idea of what we're looking at in the future. That's all.
Any other questions from any other council members in regards to this budget? Hearing none. I need a motion to approve the attorney budget as presented. So move. Need a second?
So move.
All those in favor of
Sorry,
approval
second.
of the attorney budget signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, 3-0 recommendation to pass the attorney budget as is. And that concludes our first session here. Everybody want to take a break, stretch just for a second, and then we'll bring up Park and Recreation Department here. Couple of minutes. And just to be ready when we come back, they're tab 5, page 64 through 94. All right, we're back in session for the Park Department. So what we're going to do here, with the non-reverting funds, we don't look at those, but they have to be put into the budget. But with a non-reverting fund, if they don't make the money, they can't spend the money. So we can budget somebody $1 million in a non-revert fund, but if they don't make $1 million, they can't spend their $1 million. That's how those non-revertings work. But there is one that is subsidized by the city, and that's golf. So that golf fund, we will look at the golf fund. But some of these, like this first one here, the zoo education non-revert, like I said, if they don't make that money, they don't spend the money. So, yes, Tracy. Councilwoman Tillman, I'm sorry.
Correct me if I'm wrong. So, does not the zoo receive $100,000 from the riverboat?
Well, yes. It's a separate agreement with the Boyd Development Corporation that the City of Michigan City has, and it goes along with the Enrichment Corp. The agreement says that Boyd Development will give the city $750,000 for the Enrichment Corp, of which the first $100,000 goes to the zoo. That's in its own fund number 2031.
Okay.
And that is just a zoo fund, correct? Park Zoo?
Yeah, this is the zoo donation fund is what we called it.
Okay.
No, 2031. Or, I'm sorry, that's 2055. The Boyd Development is 2031. This one's 2055 is the zoo donation fund.
Okay.
Thank you. Too many numbers in my head.
But it's,
Go ahead, Tracy.
but it's okay, so I see the $100,000 for 2021 under, Fund 2055.
This is the first year that this fund has been budgeted. And when I was reading through the ordinances, when I came into office at the beginning of the year, this, and through some state legislation that's happened over the last several years, because this is technically gaming money, the state requires that these funds be budgeted.
So for 2018, we received $100,000, 2019, and it wasn't budgeted for 2020?
It wasn't budgeted, it has never been budgeted. This is the first time that this has been in the budget process.
Oh, okay.
So before, they would just, you know, they would have projects and then they would just
Pay it.
just pay the bills on it. But when I was reading through the legislation and things, this fund technically should be budgeted through the council. So that's why I added it to the process this year.
Mr. Chairman, were we just going to go numerically by count?
So I will walk through the pages and keep you all on the same page that I'm at. So the first one we're going to address is the park concession fund on page 68. This is listed as non-departmental.
So 2056 is our first operating fund,
2056 first operating.
page 95 in our worksheet.
2055. 2055. All right. Starting 2056, page 73. There we at, Shannon?
I'm sorry?
Mr. President, are we still on page 68?
No, we moved.
Were we talking about that? Park concessions? Or no? I heard page 68, I don't know.
Yes, that was the. What page did you give, Shannon? Because I'm looking at the first one and the 205.
Our operating fund 2056 starts on page 95.
No,
I
well,
have a 2056 on 73.
it's on page 73 is where it starts in your book.
Okay, so I have a different worksheet.
Yeah.
So go to page 73.
Page 73 under tab 5. That's the Park and Recreation Fund there.
Right.
Park
So-
and Recreation.
Yep, so page 73 and 74 are the revenues. And then the 75 is also revenues. The line item budget starts on page 76.
With expenses. So revenues are first, then expenses come in behind that. And then there's a page at the very end that shows the full amount of revenue and expenses. Okay, so on page 73, I will start with any of the finance committee members. Any questions?
73?
Yeah, those are the revenue numbers.
Yeah.
Is everybody there? Councilwoman Tillman.
Line item 362.040, the rental of property Millennium Plaza rental. Is this overseen by the Port Authority? Okay, so would that not, I don't understand, why would then this be included under this line item to be paid through?
It's the Millennium Plaza rental.
The rental of Millennium Plaza falls under the jurisdiction of the Parks Department. So we collect the revenues for weddings, concerts, events at the plaza.
Okay. So, and we're currently in the red for that, but yet we want to, for 2021, $1,200, but we're in the red at $308.45.
This is a
These
revenue
are
line.
revenues. These are not expenses. These are
Yeah,
revenues.
these are revenues, not expenses. We might have had a refund that, and it was probably taken out of the wrong line item.
Okay,
Funding money that they paid the year before.
Right.
okay.
A lot of
Yeah,
cancellations.
but in the past, every time I've done this, we've never really looked at the revenue.
Correct.
And that got us into the situation of having to make transfers at the end of the year last year. So this is why I'm going through revenue, so we can take a peek at that as well. And I don't know, do you guys have any other questions over there? So I have a few highlighted. I can start going? Or, okay, go ahead, Paul.
So, I'm on Fund, 343-020, charging for parking space rental. Is that parking fees?
Yes, the daily Washington Park parking
Okay.
fees.
And, so we budgeted for 2020 that you would take in, 581 and, 581,000. And, in 2020, okay, actual, you got, 360,000. So, is that money being held? Is it turned over to the controller and then credited to the park department? How actually do you guys handle that money?
So the Parks Department has its own operating fund, so the money's receipted in and it goes against our expenses. Our expenses are always greater than our revenue, which is typical of a city department. A lot of people think that we can just keep that money in the Parks Department, but we can't. It offsets all the other expenses. And I talked to you this morning about that, like the zoo always operates at a loss. So whatever extra revenues we can bring in supplements our budget.
Right. So, with that kind of money coming in, how's that handled? Is that in a drop box all the time? Is there one person, like?
You know what, I really don't want to discuss the security of Washington Park in a public meeting, but I'd be happy to meet with you
Okay,
in a confidential meeting, just for
Okay.
safety.
all right.
But we do follow the State Board of Accounts internal controls,
Okay.
and that's managed by the
Right,
controller's
where the money is deposited daily.
All right, so on an average year, which I was looking at some other figures here, you take in like 580, quite a bit of money. And I understand that the park always runs in a deficit, that's just what's there. But I do think that some of this money, this is a suggestion to be taken to the board and the administration, that I think maybe we need to look at a non-reverting fund off of these parking stickers and parking fees to go into a security fund for Washington Park to offset some of the costs down there. But with that being said, I'm just making that as a suggestion, since most of the people are here today, that maybe we can do something in the not too distant future. But that's really all I have, right, on this particular page. Thank you.
All right, I have a, Councilwoman Timothy. Okay, just a quick one, line item 362042 with the rental of the North Point Pavilion. Did we not rent the North Point over the past couple of years?
We rented the North Point Pavilion in 2016 through 18.
And then, okay,
And then the board voted not to rent it because it was a conflict with the restaurant.
so now we're bringing that back?
I'm sorry?
So we're bringing that back because we got $3,900 showing coming in for that. That's why I was just wondering if that's going to be something that's going to be happening again this year.
No, we actually put zero into our department budget. Those are for private rentals. I guess I should be specific. We
Right.
lease the building to Sunset Grill, so we do get lease payments from them. Last year, I think we made around 30,000 in lease payments. These are private rentals. Someone wants to have a graduation party or wedding reception, but it was a huge conflict
Right.
of public, the private, with the restaurant side, with the rental side. And we don't make that much money off of it, so we just discontinued the rentals.
So we're not picking that back up again this year. We're not going to be renting it because it says
Unless the
$3,900.
park board would vote to begin renting it out again. I
Yeah.
don't see that they would do that with the conflict.
Okay, yeah, because I was asking, because it says it's going to be $3,900 in revenue. That's why I asked if that's going to be coming up again this year. So what do we do with that? I mean, if we're not planning on renting that, then we really can't count on that money as a revenue source, is my question, is my issue, which throws us out of balance. And there are no plans to bring that rental back.
Yeah, so Yvonne, that 3,900 should probably just be removed.
Right. Their operating balance is estimated to be greater than $3,900, so that's not going to be an
I saw
issue
that.
if it's in there.
So I will make the motion that we do decrease that incoming revenue number there in line 362042, the rental property for the North Point Pavilion, from 3,900 down to 0. Yes.
I'll second that.
Mr. President, what line item was that?
That is 362042, rental property, rental North Point Pavilion. It's still it's on the bottom of 73, toward the bottom of 73, 362042. To 0. And did we make that vote? Did I call for the vote on that? We did that. Correct?
Yeah.
I did call for the vote. Am I correct? I'm losing it. We just had motions?
Motion.
Wow. Yeah, and I was. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. I'm back on track. Okay.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I did have a question. I don't know if you asked for council questions or not. But that 343,021 and 22, those charges for services can you just explain what the highway and the street parking stickers and the highway and the street parking passes? What's the difference between parking stickers? I know what a parking sticker
The
is.
parking stickers is
So
a
what's the
sale of
park
annual
pass?
stickers, and the parking passes are daily passes that you can buy for reservations. So say you had a picnic shelter rental and you wanted to buy 25 passes for your guests, so your guests don't have to pay to get in.
Okay. We don't think it might be a little bit, well, I'm hoping it's more next year, definitely, than, with the increase in the gate fee that we have at $15. Does any of that, Shannon, fit into these two categories or no?
Not the gate.
That's all parking fees? Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. So moving along, going down to page 74. And I just had a quick question in regards to the interfund transfer. We had budgeted last year 375, and now it's going up to 751,250. What constitutes the 751,000 interfund? Is it just? I'm sorry.
The detail is right below. See the line items? Three transfers from there.
Transfer from Riverboat Senior Center. If it had been a snake, it would have bit me. Thank you for that correction.
So
Go
I
ahead.
just want to make sure I understand that. So those total amounts of the $751,250 is the transfer from, so is it that the park is asking for this money?
These are the operating transfers needed to fund the expenses.
Yeah.
So,
The park.
Microphone.
Excuse me. If I may, Chair, is that there's a lot of, we support the park system for the general public enjoyment, and this is part of it, that it doesn't support itself. That's why they get $100,000 from the Boyd Development Fund channeled through the riverboat, and it is what it is. You either cut programming or you fund it. So I think people want to, a lot of people enjoy the park and they enjoy the zoo, and we have to support it. All right, thank you, Mr. Dabney.
All right, going on down to page 75.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Yeah, comment, please. Yeah, what I want to do is make a comment on that $500,000 that we take from the Riverboat Fund, put it into the Park Fund to keep the park system operating. Because I know the council, this council in particular, I believe has taken a lot of heat because of the miscues with handling of the budget, that, we're overextending the riverboat. We're spending way too much money out of the riverboat account. It was explained, in the cover letter here from the mayor of how much money is coming out of the riverboat. But the $500,000, if that money wasn't taken out of the riverboat, you wouldn't have a park system operating. And I just want the general public to understand that without the city council making those moves to put that money into the budget, we wouldn't have a park department operating. You wouldn't have Gardena Playground. You wouldn't have Pullman Field. You wouldn't have some other entities around town. Baseball leagues, basketball leagues, whatever those things get to start back up again. So I just want people to understand that that's where some of the riverboat money goes to, and not to be so critical with the city council saying that we're misspending the riverboat money, which has been alluded to a couple of times at this particular council. Thank you.
Well, now moving down to page 75 with that Park Zoo.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I'd like to respond to that. We have talked about how much money has come out of the riverboat fund, but it really doesn't apply to this 500,000, Don, because that's only about 4%. But that's only about 4% of the money we get from the riverboat. So this administration never made an issue about that.
Now, Mr. Mayor, I wasn't talking about the administration taking pot shots at the city council. I'm saying I've heard it from the public making comments about the city council overextending themselves from the riverboat money. And that's what I heard earlier in the year. I haven't heard it too much lately, but I heard it. And, I have to defend myself. I've been on the city council now 10 years, and I've made a lot of those transfers and expenditures. And we have, Councilman Dabney, he's been there for a few years. Paul got on there years ago, but anyway, I'm sure that they made transfers too at that time. It was just the point that the city council makes transfers from that riverboat into these accounts within the city, in this particular case into the park department, so that we can operate the park department. That was my point. Okay, thank you.
And at the wrap-up meeting and when we do second reading, I had planned to make some comments like that as well to talk about that. So now moving on through that, now to page 75. Do any of the Finance Committee members have questions on page 75?
Yes. Line item 347.010, charges for services zoo admissions. For 2020, there was at no time, because the zoo's currently open now.
I'm sorry, what account?
347.010.
Okay, so at one point, we had an extremely complicated accounting system in our old system, Fundware, where we were actually receipting in how much of the daily admission was from the penny press machine, how much was from the theaters. So, I mean, to break that down on a daily basis and enter it into the accounting system didn't make sense because we have a point of sale system that prints that out for us daily. So we simply created a new revenue account. The daily revenue goes in, the total. We do have the breakdown. But we were, in essence, duplicating the point of sale system in their accounting system, which created a nightmare. It created errors because you're entering the data twice. And it was just very cumbersome.
Do you know what that?
So if you look at the, this doesn't show the old accounts, does it?
No.
Okay. So in essence, we just moved everything into one zoo revenue line item. Each day gets entered as a separate entry.
Shannon, if I may, on that same accounting number, 347010 and 0, I'm sorry, it's 347100, the missions to the zoo, and it said that actual budgeted amount and how much was budgeted for 2019 and 2020 and actual amount spent. So is that?
This isn't money spent. These
revenue.
are revenues.
Right. Is the amount of money, the difference, is that money that you're going to be de-obligating later on out of the budget?
These are revenues.
You can't deobligate revenues, only expenses.
Yeah.
So what this means is we're deeper in the hole this year because the zoo is closed. You know, we expected to make somewhere around $500,000 in zoo admissions, and today, I think we're quite a bit higher than this. Was this report printed?
June.
Yeah, so I was gonna say, it's quite a bit higher. But yes, we will be,
So you're telling me you're going to be over 300,000 in the hole? The way I'm reading this, or this spreadsheet, or am I not reading it correctly from the amount allocated in the, I'm looking at the budget amount and what was budgeted in for 2020, and it says 0 revenues, but then you also have zoo emissions up there, and I don't see nothing. I see 475,000 in the budget. So on my sheet, I'm looking at, I know you didn't get $473,000 in emissions. And that's what it says budgeted.
Yep.
So how much did we actually get in?
Councilman Przybylski, if I may.
What's that?
They've received through June 30th, $130,000.
Okay.
The line item budgeted that's just the way that it was put into the computer last year. But going back to the difference between the budgeted amount and what they collected is all part of that de-obligation that's also in front of the council as part of this budgeting process.
So
That we've taken into account the lack of revenues, and we have decreased our expenses. And we're doing that formally through the de-obligation.
And
That
that
is
mon-
the ordinance that precedes the budget ordinance.
and that money's gonna go back into the park department?
No, the money's not going anywhere. We're not going
Right.
to receive it.
Okay.
We're reducing the expenses.
Okay.
To match the revenue.
No, we're not, yes, we're going to reduce the expenses to go more in line with what we expect to get in the revenues. That is correct.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
So moving on to the next page, now we're into the expenses, page 75, 76, I'm sorry. So now park administration. So we're moving down here into the expense lines. Does anybody have any questions from the finance committee with line 76? Councilwoman Tillman?
Yes. For the accounts payables and receivable clerk and the office assistant events coordinator, are they similar, one and the same as far as their job responsibilities? I mean, 411.013.
Salaries and
I
wages.
think we're looking at different worksheets, but yeah, that's, the event coordinator / recreation director position no longer exists. So it's not in our budget. I don't know if you're seeing that. Oh, office assistant, okay. Let's see, accounts payable, I can't read the second. Okay, that's, the office assistant / events coordinator is a position in our office.
You said it is or is not?
It is.
Okay.
I thought you were talking about last year, we had a different position that was split between the park and Board of Works. Okay, thank you. So yes, that position in our office does all of our accounts receivables, fields all of our phone calls, and does all the events and rentals through the park. So by meaning events, Smooth Jazz wants to hold a concert at the amphitheater, she coordinates all that. The car shows, super boat race. So yes, that is still a viable full-time position.
Can I, Chairman Devlin? Don't we have a full-time event coordinator
Not through our department,
for the city?
for the city.
So does every department have their own?
Probably the term, a little confusion in title. When Mr. Stimmer was hired, the term events coordinator was used, but should probably be recognized there. This is a daily position.
Okay. So planner versus coordinator.
So she coordinates like all the rentals of the halls and the wedding, anything within the park department. So it can be an event or a reservation.
The terminology makes sense the way you just said it, planner versus coordinator. Okay, that makes more sense because you were mentioning similar events that I thought the planner did. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question about that. Are they 40 hours all year? I don't know if anybody's not. So my question is, as far as those two positions, because you have a payroll person too, and then you have a receivables person too, and you're saying they have enough work to keep them busy all year, even though, even with rentals, I would think that doesn't take up 40 hours a week. So I guess my question is, for those two positions, does it warrant all year, or can it be part-time for one of those? And do they back one another up?
Which two positions?
The payroll,
The APAR and the events coordinator.
office assistant and payroll, because I'm wondering why when we go through their payroll, we have a full-time payroll person there, so why do you have a full-time payroll person too?
Because our department's so large, so our payroll person also does all the personnel, insurance, claims, things of that nature. And then on the other side of, and that person's also the backup to our office for all events, rentals, front office, phone calls. I'm trying not to use names here, sorry, almost blurred them out. On the events and accounts receivable side, that's more than a full-time job. That position also does all the programming registration. Now, again, I'm talking in a normal year. It's really hard to talk about this stuff this year because it was not normal. But yes, in a normal year, there's more than 40 hours worth of work year-round for all three of those positions.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. President? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so this events coordinator, they wouldn't have anything to do if there was a 5K run, anything like that, right?
If it's on park property, absolutely.
Okay,
Yep.
then what would the marketing director, and he's got, it's slash title recreation director. So what does he do for the park department now?
We do not have a recreation director.
Okay, then what was Johnny, or when that position was first opened up, it was supposed to be for number one, a marketing director, and number two, a recreation director for the park department, and that's what, Mr. Keenutz, lobbied for to get that position, and he got it. So then, does Mr. Stimley have the same title, marketing director, recreation director?
He does not.
No?
So Jeremy Keenitz asked to get our recreation director position back within the department. It was one of the key positions we lost.
Right.
We haven't had a rec director in 4 years. So again, this events person is the rec director right now as well. And then at the time, the city controller at the time decided to split the position, which I was always against. How can you have one full-time position working for two different departments, two different bosses? It just didn't really work out well.
Yeah.
And then that position was just eliminated with the last administration. This is a totally new position that's answers to one boss. The way it was set up last time was just a little strange to me. And I don't think it was effective because the responsibilities of the rec director and the events planner, the heavy seasons fall at the same time. How are you going to run all the summertime events, all the tournaments at Patriot, all of our sporting activities simultaneously? It just, to me, it didn't make sense.
Okay, so John Stimley has nothing to do with the park department then?
That's correct.
Okay. He's just the marketing director. That's it.
Right now, we have.
Events, marketing
Right now,
director?
we have no marketing director.
So he's events coordinator.
He's the events coordinator.
But those are city, like outside of the park, farm
The events
markets,
coordinator was
concerts.
The events coordinator was originally hired by Mayor Mayor and supervised by Mr. Keenitz and Ms. Hoffmaster. Kind of an odd combination, but that's what it was set up. The day-to-day events coordinator with the park department does all of the things that Ms. Easton said, just league play, things that occur every day. Mr. Stimley's duty when we get back on track is going to be planning and coordinating major events like the 4th of July parade, Oktoberfest, things that the park department doesn't have a handle in. And he's directly under me. The marketing of the city, we're working on that. That will be an individual entity.
Thank you for that explanation. Does anyone have any more questions on page 76?
Yes, I did.
Councilman.
Thank you, Chair. So this is a thing I had with this budget and this department last year as well. So I know the superintendent and the assistant superintendent, you guys enjoy some pretty hefty salaries, and it really makes this department top heavy. And as I'm looking at the rest of the salaries and the supporting staff, and I guess this question is mostly to Mayor Perry. Why weren't some of the support staff for the park pay increase? Because it seems like this would probably create a high turnover, especially for seasonal people. You don't get people that are going to come back for, $7.60 an hour in 2020 when, you could go to, probably McDonald's and make more than that full time. So is there a plan to work on increasing the pay for the support staff for the park department so we are able to keep and hold quality people that reoccur and are looking forward to these jobs on a reoccurring basis, so we don't have to keep paying new people and training new people every single year to do the same jobs that people will come back for if it's beneficial for them?
Yeah, we didn't, last year, was it last year, the city did the salary, they did a salary study. So I have that on my desk, and have started developing a plan on how to implement this salary study. You know, we're equalizing, like you said, the top half of this seems a little heavy, but equalizing the positions. The first step in that is we will be bringing new job descriptions to the Board of Works to pass. That's the first step in implementing this salary study. But we will be addressing all of these, and unfortunately with COVID and everything that went on this year, the loss of revenues because we couldn't operate things as normal, the mayor and I chose not to begin to implement that salary study in the 2021 budget. So what we're going to do is develop a full plan, and probably over the next 2 to 3 years, we will implement this salary study that will bring a lot of these positions back in line where they need to be with the job responsibilities and things like that. And the seasonals are also part of that salary study.
Okay. It just seemed, I don't know, a little kind of disturbing. We already had established that everyone else is getting an additional paycheck, but the seasonal people are still making just barely the federal minimum wage. It's just, I still think that's a problem. I brought it up last year with the previous administration. Hopefully in the coming years we could work on that so we don't continue to have this grand a disparity.
President Fitzpatrick, if I could address that.
Please.
Last year, we did give substantial raises to our seasonal employees. The top rates are not reflected in this budget. There's a range, and we were having trouble finding seasonal staff at all to work for us. Even with almost a $2 an hour increase, we still had difficulties this year maintaining a full staff. So we are able to pay people more, and the parking operation, for instance, they get a pay increase each year that they return, so they have a good incentive to come back. So the raise last year was instrumental in keeping some of the kids, the high school kids, because you're right. I've lost a couple of the high school kids that were great workers to Menards. You know, they're $14 an hour. They get a $2 shift differential on the weekends. We couldn't compete. But the $2 raise did help somewhat this year, so I appreciate you bringing that up.
Okay. Thank you.
Mrs. Hoffmaster, in regards to the salary studies that you were referring to, that you were looking at, if, from my understanding, was actually the study was done in 2019 under the prior mayor. Are you going to be looking at that, or will you be requesting to have another study done?
Well, that study cost in the neighborhood of $20,000, and it's only a year old, so no, we won't be asking to have another study done because I believe it'll return the same results as this one.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dabney. I have a question. Where are the lifeguards at on this? Did I overlook that totally?
The lifeguards are in a non-reverting budget. They're not in our operating.
Okay.
They're in the recreation fund.
Now.
Oh, they are. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, then I still
Yeah, you're
have
right.
a.
Sorry.
I thought I lost it somewhere, but I appreciate that. The parking attendants and the whole picture of that money was in the budget. It's $68,085. That's the total cost for running that program. Now, some of these monies that it says here on their hourly rate is like $7.92, and you're telling me that you increased their money $2 an hour. Is this just like the base pay that you pay them here?
Yes. So if you look at the salary order, it will come before you. You'll see the 792 is now 950. About $52 an hour.
Okay, because here's what I do want to get at. In something on that, what Mr. Fitzpatrick brought up, Councilman Fitzpatrick, about the wage scale for these people to make sure that we have people for next year. I think that we really have to look at the monetary cost for having responsible people, or even what I talked about before, offer the money in non-reverting fund to fund some of this and to get security down there for all the reasons above. And I think that is what we need to be moving towards with the park board on establishing this, and establish something down there, and then we'll take care of a lot of issues that came up this year. That I really truly think that something needs to be done in that. I hope that you take it back to the park board on getting something done here. And also on their pay, and we'll talk more about that when we get to the lifeguards.
Right. Any other questions on page 70?
you.
I'm sorry, Paul. Are you, any more questions on 76? If not, moving over to page 77. Still expenses, park administration. Does any of the finance committee members have a question for Ms. East? Councilwoman Tillman.
Line item 432040, communications and transportation telephone. I just wanted to say, I think, is it possible to look into getting a better carrier? I mean, $4,750 for 2021, and it was budgeted for $8,652 for this year, even though it's reduced. But what kind of phone calls are they making?
Yvonne, this includes all of our city cell phones, is that correct?
All for the park.
Now, there's also some communications lines where we're not able to get cable, like Patriot Park. So I think there's like a cell disk or something out there to allow them to have internet connection. But we're on the city's IT plan. So our telephone costs have been greatly reduced over the last year and a half since the new phone systems came in. But this is city phones. There's phone and alarm systems at all of our buildings, the splash park, the zoo. So these aren't just desk telephones. This is
Or cell
any
phones?
telephone service that has to do with an alarm, a cell,
Okay.
a desk phone.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions on page 77? I have none on that page. I'll open it up to other council members. Questions on page 77? Got to look in the back there for Angie. All right, moving on. Page 78. That's just continuation of contractual services there.
78.
But because page 78 started on, 78 started on 77 at the bottom there and then moved on.
So on page 78, for the P&R lawn care, why is it that we will be paying another lawn care when we have our own city employees to do this?
So PNR Lawn Care is an annual maintenance agreement for Millennium Plaza. The plaza was built by the Board of Works. Jurisdiction was turned over to the Park Department. I don't remember what year it was. However, the Park Department did try to take over maintenance of that facility and honestly failed miserably. We don't have the skilled landscapers to keep that front door to the park as beautiful as it is. So last year, the Parks Department and the Port Authority, I think they each kicked in $10,000 to add like new plants to beautify, but this is just for the annual month-to-month landscaping, keeping the irrigation systems up. No, we maintain the fountain in-house. Yes.
I-
So I think we went 3 years maybe with trying to do it with our garden landscape people,
But
but
I mean, that was a little, you
I'm
know,
sorry?
to say that our garden landscapers is not equipped or skilled enough, but yet they maintain the rest of the city.
they maintain park properties.
Well, park properties.
Right, but not to that level. I mean, that's a planned out,
Shiny thing.
engineered, landscaped with, yeah, professional applications that need to be done. And like I said, we tried it to save money and the plaza just looked horrible. So we went back to bidding it out. It is in its last year of a 3-year contract this year, so we'll be rebidding that in January.
Okay. And then the other one, for the South Shore Media website, is this not something that would be covered under the event planning? Or could be covered under the event planning?
Actually, the website now has been turned over to the city's new website. The Parks Department had their own website contract with South Shore Media, but that's no longer needed. We're now under emichigancity.com.
So, okay, so if that's not needed, then that could be removed. I make a motion that we remove the South Shore Media website of $1,000. Wait, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, 800.
I second that.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
1, 2, 4, 5, 6.
Give me a second to record. Yeah, wait, in the
Fund 2056.
439090.
Can you say that number again?
It's 2056.
439090. Oh, well, you guys are,
Oh, I'm
For
on
the
page-
account number.
yeah.
I'm on page 79. You on 79?
So 800.
President,
I don't know.
could you repeat that?
439090. And that's 800,
Details of this year.
turning 800 to 0.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Yeah, I guess on that, under park administration, maybe I should have spoke up louder, but
I'm sorry.
But anyway, if I could just make a couple of comments. Number one, the beacher. You know, why do we pay $5,200 to the beacher?
Printing for our daily tickets down in Washington Park.
Oh, okay. All right.
That expense is going to be flipped into another account because we went to a new point of sale system. So now instead of buying the tickets ahead of time, we're printing on demand,
Okay.
which is way
Then
more.
I have a suggestion or a recommendation for us to get some money for the seasonal workers. And we can throw $4,500 right into it. No, yeah, $4,500 with this summer intern. I don't know what the summer intern does, but maybe we could take that $4,500 and move it to give these guys a little bit more money.
So the summer intern position is what fills in because we lack a recreation director. So we typically get a college student who's involved in park and recreation, sports, and they help us run the leagues in the summer, the signups, the tryouts, put the teams together. Without having that full-time rec director, again, that is a huge responsibility to our department each year.
Okay,
So
all right.
So
that
is
one
that-
is well worth the money.
So is that page 79, Don? Did you move down to page 79?
Yeah.
Park
That's on
recreation.
page 79.
Okay, that's where we're at next, park recreation.
Yeah, okay.
Page 79, Don got us started already. So, any of the finance committee members have questions of page 79 there? Councilman Paul Prespolinski.
Thank you, Mr. Demme. The lifeguard position, the head lifeguard and lifeguards is of concern to me, to make it more, I feel that that's a very essential job to the safety of our lakefront. And many years ago, not many, I'll just say a few years ago, we had a disproportionate amount of people working here that weren't getting paid very well. And I was wondering if there was any chance to make this position more attractive so that we get people to take these positions and pay them a not below scale, but at least pay them more than they get at some of the water parks locally. And I don't have any figures in front of me, but that's just a suggestion to so we have lifeguards that are willing to do that job during these challenging times. And I think that, you know, that you can take that back to the board if you need more money. I don't think that for 11 people, I don't think $61,000 is a bad return for the safety. And that's just the lifeguards. And then you have a head lifeguard. But I believe that somewhere in this budget we can find some money to really make it attractive so we are a beach that has lifeguards because of this reason. This year we had people down on the beach that from police and firemen down there patrolling the beach. Now also with discussions with my brother that some of these guys couldn't swim. So I'm going, why are they down there? And that's another aspect of city employment, on having your public safety officers being able to swim. And this is, because it astounds me as an individual that can swim, that we should reward these people for putting their lives at risk. And I strongly feel that way, that we should make it as advantageous as we can so we can recruit people next year and find them some more money.
All right.
Okay, again, Mr. Prespolinski, these rates in the budget it looks like they're an average of our range. So they're lower than what we're actually paying. So the assistant head lifeguards are paid $12.67. The head lifeguard is at $13.47. And starting guards are at $11.62. That's the high end.
Thanks, Shannon.
You're welcome.
All right, point made there. Any other questions from the Finance Committee on page 79? Down in supplies and other services charges. Open it up to any other council members? Yes.
I don't know how you hire the lifeguards, but wouldn't it be nice to use some of that education money to recruit some college students and pay for their training so they don't have to have any expenses, so they can just be ready to come to work? So we had the education money. You guys may not have been here. The earlier meeting, remember, we had the education money left over, so maybe we can use some of that. We'll train you please come here ready to work, when you guys start. So that's just an idea.
So when Mr. Keenitz left, he was working with the school system on building a curriculum where the students would actually get credit as part of, it could be their physical education or whatever they decided to put it under. This is not a Michigan City problem. This is a state of Indiana across the region, not only the Great Lakes, but inland lakes and pools. Lifeguards are just a dying breed. So Jeremy was trying to get it put into the school system to encourage the kids to take these courses, come out certified, have a job, a high-paying job for a high school student. I'm not sure where that's at since he left. I can definitely follow up with Candy Fair. That's who he was working with. But I think that's part of the solution. We need a feeder system. Unfortunately, COVID closed all the pools down. So our lifeguards require a higher certification than a splash park or a pool or a water park. They have to be open water trained. So it's a little bit different. We're all for paying for training to get guards. The problem is we need the bodies and they're just not out there. We got one application this year, which LaPorte grabbed from us immediately, and they couldn't get a team. So yeah, it's an issue we need to work on. But thank you.
All right, thanks for that explanation. Any other questions? Page 79, Councilman Paul Przewalski.
I just have one other comment, and I'll make it as quick as I possibly can, is that, to make it more attractive, maybe we need to enhance our water rescue service on, like they do at Oceanfront. And we need to look at examining the equipment they use at Oceanfront because of our rough water conditions here, and that this is a comment to be taken to the administration, that we get our firefighters and police officers involved who want to be certified in that, so that, if they're called, they can do something. And then we're paying them for it, but that we have the equipment to make that type of rescue. Thank you.
Okay. Moving on.
Mr. Przewalski,
Oh.
we are moving in that direction. We are going to have more water rescue equipment. But the problem is we can't afford to have firemen doing that. The wage differential is too big. Traditionally, we've had high school kids as lifeguards that were on a swim team. They're excellent swimmers. They're affordable. It's a part-time job. It's a summer job. Having a feeder system for summer jobs, I don't think is going to be really successful because they're looking beyond just summer jobs. But in reference to your better equipment for like oceanfront safety, yes, we are going to move in that direction.
Thank you. Page 80. Finishing up here, park recreation. Anybody have any questions? Any other finance committee members have questions there? Okay, hearing none, opening up to other council members. I'll come back to you, Paul.
Yeah, miscellaneous services. What does miscellaneous services combined? What's in miscellaneous services?
Are you under 503 recreation?
Yeah, it's the third item down, miscellaneous services.
Miscellaneous services can be anything that needs labor. So, say a water wheel blew out at Patriot Park and they have to take it in to repair it, we can't do it. That's a miscellaneous service. If a window gets broken. I apologize. This summer we had a couple windows broken at the press boxes out at Patriot. You have to call Meyer Glass in. That's miscellaneous. Things that we really can't account for. We can't plan ahead. It's just a buffer for the unknowns. And that's in all of our accounts. You'll see that. All of our funds.
Okay, and then also Republic Services, what do they do for us?
Trash pickup.
Where at?
Patriot.
At Patriot Park?
Out of this fund, it's Patriot Park, correct?
Oh, okay, yeah, you're right, it's Patriot
Yeah, it's the
Park.
dumpster collection.
Okay, and what do they have, a big 5-yard box or whatever they pick up?
You know what's that? 2 5 yards?
Okay. This is just a suggestion, okay? But when I first got on the council, at City Hall, we had a waste management 5-yard box, okay? And I talked to the mayor, and I says, why are we doing that when we have our own refuse department? Why don't we just put 6 or 7 toters in a fenced-in area, and we could save $400 a month by doing that. And that's what we did, and we've been saving $400 a month because the refuse department runs through there, boom, empties the containers, and off they go. And the easy thing about having a refuse department doing it, they can come through there 2 times a week, 3 times a week, however often you need them. But just a suggestion.
We did the math on that. Do you remember? And it was like for Patriot, you're going to have for a tournament, maybe 40 or 50 toters.
Oh, okay.
Because the garbage, it depends on how many people are out that weekend. On a soccer Saturday, you have 1,000 people in that park. So
okay.
I know you and I talked about it at maintenance, and it worked out to be way too many and more cumbersome.
Okay, just a suggestion.
Also, Don, Patriot Park's out of the city limits, so our refuse trucks, I don't think can leave the city.
Maybe if they're told to go out there and get it, they'll get it, because they work for the city, and it's a city park, so I wouldn't let that get in your way. But anyway, it may be too far-reaching for 40 toters on a Monday morning.
Well, it would be every day. Tournaments, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You're going to fill them up every single day.
All right, moving on to page 81, Park and Recreation Fund, Park Zoo. And so once again, I'll start with the Finance Committee members. Any question from the Finance Committee members? Okay, I'll move that question out to other council members, page 81.
I have one question about the dietitian. Is that dietitian for the animals? For like all of them?
I'm sorry, I can't.
Dietitian position 411041.
Is your question, what is that position?
Yes.
That's a dietitian that works in the zoo kitchen that makes up the animal meals.
Okay.
They're actually quite complicated. It's amazing if you go in there and watch.
Yeah,
They eat well.
Yeah.
Everything has to be measured, weighed.
Yeah, it seemed like it should be something that was worth more than $9.82 an hour. That's what got my attention.
So the animals have somebody that makes their meals.
That is the top end on the salary order.
I hope she's not watching right now, but I can't get anybody to cook for me.
So, this isn't like a licensed or certified dietitian. It's just their job is to maintain the zoo diets properly measured, properly weighed, feeding the right proteins to the right animals. It's complicated and it's gross. There's chickens involved and rats and...
Mr. Dempsey, please cut that last comment I made. I just thought about that. Edit that out, please. And Sean just reminded me we're live. Any other questions? Page 81 from the council members. Okay, moving over. I have nothing on 81. Page 82, still in Park Zoo. Any questions from the Finance Committee members? And I just have one. The zoo food. just jumped off. I know over the years this has just expanded over time. We're up to 118,000 in zoo food. They get new.
So in years past, we've been supplemented by a Margaret and Otto Zach Foundation fund that paid for zoo food. It's around $60,000 to $65,000 per year, paying for their food. However, they are turning away from operational grants. They want to move towards like exhibits. They've given us quite a bit of money for the feline house. So it's possible that next year, this is a year-to-year grant that Jamie applies for, that we could get 60,000, or they may say we're only going to give you 20 now. So we have to plan that if we don't get this grant, we have to continue to feed the animals. So that's the actual cost. But they've been very generous over the last 10 years in supplementing the zoo food and our veterinary accounts.
Any questions from any of the Finance Committee members? No. Other council members on page 82? Hearing none, moving on. Still under the Park Zoo fund there, page 83. Any questions from the Finance Committee members? Councilwoman Tillman.
439.090, if you could elaborate, what is AZA?
That's the American Zoological Association. That's for our membership.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then just to follow up, the ZAA on the bottom is the Zoological, and I think it's Aquarium Association. It's another professional membership where we share information.
Open to any other council members. Questions on page 83.
I have a question.
Councilwoman Jigas.
Why are we going to the Berrien County landfill? Just curious.
It's the closest and most cost-effective landfill that we have to Michigan City right now that will accept the zoo waste. We get off the zoo. I like the fuzzy part of it.
All right, moving along, page 84 now. We're still in the Park and Recreation Fund here, 2056. Now we're in park maintenance. Any of the Finance Committee members have any questions? Page 84. Okay, open it up to other council members. Any questions? Page 84.
Yeah, Mr. President?
Yes, Councilman Paul, Prespolinski.
Nothing about the budget, just a general comment about the park department and the park department maintenance workers and janitors and whatever mechanics that they have. I think that group is an outstanding group of individuals and hardworking people and employees for the city. And as Councilman Fitzpatrick said earlier, we certainly must find a way to pay these people more money than what they're making at $10.35 an hour. But I just want to, thank them for their hard work and effort and pass that information on to them. Chris Kaufman, I know Chris personally, and I've been out there and talked to him, and they do a great job.
Thank you. We'll pass that
You're
along.
Hearing no other questions, moving on to page 85. I have a question, Shannon, line number 423011, repair and maintenance supplies. We're budgeting 30,400 there. And I was just looking back over, like I compared it to the last full year. I'm taking that COVID year out. We spent about 19,000. Now we're up to 30 in terms of budget. What do we have going on there?
So the building materials supplies consist of any in-house construction projects, maintenance projects. A good example is probably about 3 years ago, our picnic tables were in really bad shape. So I think we built 70 picnic tables that year. So that was for the lumber, the hardware. Maintenance is such a diverse department, it's hard to, plan what they're going to need in the future. A tree falls on the picnic shelter, you need building materials. So it's for anything that we can do in-house to not have to hire a contractor and pay out contractual services. So some years are going to be a lot higher than others. Like I said, the year we built the tables, thousands of dollars. Another good example, I needed an informational kiosk for the new grant projects at Winding Creek Cove, $6,000. Maintenance built it for me for $1,600. So he saved me out of my budget, but he had to pay for the materials. And then he'll want a backpack blower or something from me, I'm sure. But so that's what it's for. We try to do everything we can in-house just to save money.
Any questions from the Finance Committee? Okay, open it up to other council members.
In regards to Councilman, in regards to the maintenance and of the parks, I don't know, this may be a little outline, but kind of in step. But is there some type of assessment of how much the parks are actually being utilized? Because I think about the parks that are in the Fourth Ward, like Adams Park, and I remember once I had to have someone come out and literally cut the grass because it was like 30-something inches. So how many people are actually going to the parks across the city that we're having to budget all this money to maintain annually? If people aren't using the parks or they're not able for people to use them, why are we budgeting all this money for? Has there been some type of assessment to see how much the parks are actually being utilized overall?
No, we have really no ability without like going out and hand counting, and then you'd have to do it like during the season. I mean, visually you can tell, like Walker Street's used all the time, big basketball court usage there, the gardens, but as far as the smaller parks like Ridgeland, no, we really don't. As far as Adams Park, the reason we can't cut the grass out there is the water table's too high. Our equipment can't get out there. We do have a master plan for that park, however. So just because, say, Ridgeland Park, I think, is our smallest neighborhood park. Say there's 6 kids in the neighborhood that use it. If a tree falls on the swing set, we got to fix it. If nobody uses it, we have to fix it because it's a safety issue, a public safety issue. And again, we've got 16 parks, 600 acres to maintain. It's hard to predict what we're going to have to repair next year.
I'd like to say that Mr. President, I've been visiting the parks to get to know the parks. And I am kind of disappointed that the parks aren't being used enough. So I am going to be facilitating a baseball clinic at Oak Hills on October 10th and try and bring some of the kids out of that neighborhood to play baseball for an all-day baseball clinic.
Yeah, this was, and this is to Mayor Perry. I'm not sure how many parks we have total. It's not, something I've paid attention to. If it's 20 parks, and maybe 5 are being utilized heavily and the rest of them are barely being used, if we had 10 really nice quality parks that people could go to that were being utilized more, that would probably be more cost effective if we put some type of, long-term plan in place just to really, maximize what we have for the city. So, instead of 6 kids going to one park, we have 40 kids going to a different park that kind of centralizes based on the area of the city where they are. Just a because I've seen some of the other parks, and I know that, the little shelters are run down, the bleachers are bad. So I believe if people are using it, it's not optimal or safe. So that's kind of one of the things I was thinking about with that. So
We have data in our master plan that I'd be happy to share. The problem with getting rid of some of the smaller underused parks is you're taking them away from the lower income kids that don't have transportation to get to the bigger parks. So they may serve a smaller percentage of kids, but they're kids that would otherwise be left out of the equation. We have a 31% poverty rate. So there's a lot of data we collected in our master plan that's very interesting, and we benchmark against the national standards, and that's always the fear is, yes, it's condense and make things nicer and easier to maintain, but then you take away the service that we're here to provide for everyone equally. So just a point to think about.
Councilman Fitzpatrick, we are going to do a long-term assessment of facilities in Michigan City, because as most of us know, the town is constantly decreasing in size from over 40,000 in 1966 to 29,000 today. The census says 31, but that's 2,200 of our friends in ISP. So we continue to offer more amenities, but the population is decreasing and our maintenance costs are increasing. So we're going to take a look at not just parks throughout the city, of everything that we're offering to try to reduce our expenses.
Thank you. Any other questions on page 85? If not, moving on to page 86, which are a continuation of what started on 85 and contractual services down at the bottom. Any questions for Ms. Eason regarding 86, end of 85, page 86? Okay, hearing none, moving on to page 87. Still in the Park Recreation Fund. Now we're looking at Senior Center. Any questions from the Finance Committee? Page 87. Hearing none, opening up to the rest of the council.
Yeah, question for the controller. For salaries and wages and regular salary and wages, 411,013. 2020 actual amount right now is 26,000.
June 30.
Pardon?
That's as of June 30.
Oh, sorry. Okay. All right. Because I seen it seemed awfully low. All right. Okay, but anyway, so then the 2020 adopted budget is 68,000. Okay, and then the 75,000, that's because of the added
pay.
2-week pay period. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from any other council members? All right, moving on to page 88. And this is just kind of a wrap up of with the revenue totals and expense totals for 2056. So we can see what happened here and like I said, the total of what we had going on there. And it makes me smile to see that our revenues are greater than expenses. And I think that was the whole goal of the exercise this year. Everybody want to plow through these last few pages, or you want to stretch for a sec? Man, everybody's quiet. Keep going. We're plowing straight ahead. And like I said, this is one of the non-reverts that we were talking about with golf. But I thought it would be worthy of taking a peek into the golf fund, because there's some explanations, because we do subsidize with the golf. Golf is an amenity that we provide for the city. It rarely, if ever, turns profit. Shannon could answer that.
Are we
But
currently profitable? Is that what you said?
no.
No.
Have we ever?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
The golf course used to be very, very profitable back in the Tiger Woods days, but
Back in the Tiger Woods days?
that era's gone.
Good point. Okay, so looking in, obviously we start with the revenues now. Page 89 are the revenues projected coming in here.
I'd just like to comment quickly, this is
Yes.
the same as the zoo. All these little separate accounts have been moved into one revenue account, and they're sorted out by our point of sale.
Any questions, concerns from the Finance Committee? Anything you want cleared up? Open it up to other council members.
Yeah, Mr. President,
Yes.
so the revenue thus far this year, or up into June or July, is 445,000, right?
30th.
Yeah,
Correct.
okay, and then next year, we're looking at 650,000 for both the north course and the south course.
Assuming the course will be open a normal schedule, yes.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's gotta be a record number right there, according to the way everything else is going. That's great. Because in a minute, I got some projects that money can be used for.
I have your list.
Any other questions regarding golf fund revenue? Page 89. Hearing none, moving on to page 90, the expenses. Golf fund.
Mr. President?
Yes. Councilwoman Tillman.
Page 90?
Page 90, yes.
Line item 411013. The assistant green superintendent, there's two. Is there a need for two?
Yeah, so there is a need to have 4 full-time employees out there. We used to have 6, we cut back to 5, and now we're down to 4. So yes, we have 2 18-hole courses. That's a lot of property to cover with only 4 full-time people.
No, it's 18.
Any other questions, Finance Committee?
And just,
Yes.
for the vacation buybacks, do you know approximately how many employees that will apply to?
I'm sorry, how many people that would what?
How many employees that will apply to for the vacation buyback?
Typically, they don't, but we have to fund it because we don't know if they're going to or not. They can apply for buying back 2 weeks of vacation. I think it's by April 1st of this year. We don't see a lot of people buy back their vacation, but we have to budget for the max in case it happens.
It applies to 4.
It applies to the 4, yes, correct.
Okay.
Any other questions on page 90? Hearing none, moving on to page 91. Still within the golf fund. Looking at supplies now and then other services and charges.
Is it 91? 91?
Yep, 91.
Line item, Mrs. Hoffmaster, 439.090. Other services in charge, other contractual services. Could you be specific, or what contractual services are they pertaining to?
If you turn to page 92, they're outlined by contract.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I see it. Thank you.
Councilman Paul Prespolinski.
Under the maintenance of equipment, repairs and maintenance, and repairs and other maintenance I have to ask you, was there any discussion this year about any of their equipment out there? Because last year I specifically went out there to look at their equipment, and they're in need of some equipment out there, and the building that was moved from the north course to the south course maintenance area, that barn type garage, last year it was in need of a roof, and I just wondered, is there any plans on, doing anything out there? And the reason I'm saying that at this time is so maybe something can get done. So with that being said, that I think that we need to look at getting them at least one piece of equipment, and the trucks out there, it's like a junkyard, This is a shame what's sitting out there, that they need at least one piece of equipment this year,
I went over that with Randy Durham, and some of that equipment may look like junk, but they actually operate, the dump truck operates, and he's able to use that, and some of the equipment that is down, he uses for parts. So I did go over almost all the equipment that I saw with him, and it seems to me like everything there is being used or used for parts. I will look into that roof, though.
Thank you.
Yes, Councilman Don Prespolinski.
Okay. And Mr. Sheehan and myself, we've had discussions about the golf course, especially the north course. Eddie and I we met out there as soon as he took the job over. And if we're trying to make our facilities look like model facilities and really try to get the attention of people that come from out of town to what we have here in Michigan City, the North Course and the North Course Clubhouse, well, I can't say the North Course is a beautiful golf course, but the facility needs a total rehab. The paint is falling off the siding, the soffit, the fascia boards are rotten, the shingles need to be replaced. On one side of the building, there was siding tore off of there. Somebody tried to break into that building a couple of years ago. Siding's never been replaced. And new windows need to be installed. It's not energy efficient. And from some place they got a air conditioner. Somebody gave them an air conditioner just so they'd have one there this summer. So we got we're projecting $650,000 for the golf course to make. And I would expect some of that money to be taken to put into that North Course clubhouse and make it look like a show place, which it should be. Then the other thing, there's some trees, and I know this, but anyway, there's trees that need to be trimmed up in the fairways, and Eddie's aware of that. And hopefully Jessica will get out there this fall and get that done. We've been asking for a couple of years to get that done. And even at the south course, the big course, the clubhouse needs some sprucing up to make it look nice. The other thing, in talking about the maintenance area and being in the maintenance field that I did, and I like to see things, to be done safe. And I don't know if that device is still out there, but there was a motor lift, a homemade motor lift that was sitting in that maintenance area with just a chain pulley on it. And that is no way OSHA certified, and nobody should be using that, because if somebody gets hurt with that piece of equipment, then the city's going to have a lawsuit, and we're going to have an injured employee, and we're going to have a family that's affected by their husband or wife being hurt by that piece of equipment. So the crew at the golf course does a fantastic job. The maintenance guys, Randy and all his guys, do a fantastic job. The course is in great shape. And we just got to get that north course, that clubhouse. Take a ride out there, Mayor. You'll be able to see exactly what we're talking about without either one of us even having to meet you out there. All you got to do is walk around it. I've even had some of my retired buddies to say, hey, you give us the equipment, you give us the paint, you give us the scrapers, and we'll go out there and we'll paint the place. And I said, nah, we're not going to that extent right now. But, people are willing to make it look nice, but the city needs to step forward and make it look nice, because we're the people paying our taxes and paying to play there. And by making $450,000 this year, I think we could take 20 grand of that and put it into this North Course clubhouse. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. All right, and that was the 92, no questions on page 92, which would be the contractual services there at the top. All right, and once again, looking down, wrapping up the fund there. I see the revenue and expenses, and hopefully that holds for us. We're on the positive side with the golf. So, and the last couple pages that have to do with the park are the Patriot Park non-reverting fund, and we were not discussing the non-reverts. So that wraps up the park department. Yes, question?
On these non-reverting funds, are they only are they specific on what they can be used for? Or I know it's for the park, but are they specifically talking about equipment or the buildings or?
That's correct. Each non-reverting fund is governed by a council ordinance.
Yeah.
That allows for certain revenue to be receipted into the fund and only certain expenses to come out, and each one's different.
Is there right. Yeah, restricted so are any of them funds allowed to be used on any motorized equipment out there?
At the golf course?
Yeah, no, at Patriot Park.
This particular fund is set up for an advertising program. So we sell advertising signs along the fields. This account just lets us bring the revenue in and then pay for any expenses for the signage. So we make money off of it. But yeah, this isn't like a money capital building fund for equipment.
Well,
I mean, it could be at some point
Okay, well.
if it had a good balance, but
Okay, since we're on the topic of Patriot Park, I also went out there last year, and those guys need a small tractor out there. They needed it last year. Their tractor was sitting there with a flat tire. They said they haven't used it in 3 years. I mean, something's got to be done. I mean, and that's what I saw, and in last year's budget, they were supposed to get a tractor, so they could do multiple. It wasn't a huge one. It was like, for one of these compact tractors, like for a mini farm or whatever, however you want to describe it. But it had, they were going to use it for moving dirt and mowing the big field and stuff like that. But they did have a use for it, so.
it's on our capital list.
Right, I know it's on the capital list, but they definitely need it in their truck they're driving. I don't know if the cab is gone on it or the cab mounts, but it looked pretty shabby when I was out there last year. Their actual truck to run their errands in or whatever. We need to come up with some kind of program, and we need to come up to find some money to do this if we want to keep that facility in, just like Don was talking about the golf course, on keeping these facilities at least decent. We've invested a lot of money in each one of these facilities, and we need to keep the maintenance up on them. I totally agree with Don on what he's talking about here. Thank you.
Those sound like a couple good appropriations for the council to take care of.
That's what we're going to have to see, additional appropriations. So that concludes night one. Oh, you have one more question?
That's right, yeah.
No, go ahead, Don.
Question, yeah, under that 347-150 charges for service billboard advertising fee. So in 2020, we had 20 grand budgeted. And then for 2021, we got $1,800. Can you just explain that to me? I'm just asking a question. So we don't expect to get too much advertising out there. Is what I'm.
The 1,800 is based on a 3 to 4 year average of revenue received in that fund.
Okay.
So, yeah, and like I had told the council earlier this year, that we were going to work on making the revenues more realistic, so we can look at actually being able to fund the expenses on these budgets.
Okay.
So that's why the difference.
Okay. Thank you.
We can always take in more than the $1,800.
That's what I'm saying. We had 20 projected, but 18 for next year, so, okay.
So now that concludes night one. And Don, this is exactly why I wanted to look at revenues. When I saw that, I have it highlighted as well, the 20 grand last year. So I was led to believe that it was stuffed in there to make it balance. It's just my thoughts.
Thank you.
Thank you all.